As we continue our focus on generational change in real estate, we had to invite Simon McGrath and Richard Clucas onto the show. Many would know that Simon recently sold his share in the highly regarded agency Able McGrath to free up time for other pursuits, while his protege Richard has gone from strength to strength in his real estate career. Simon and Richard are chalk and cheese in many respects, so I wanted to know what exactly it is that makes this relationship work so well. Gentlemen, Mr. Richard and Mr. Simon, welcome onto The Crunch.
Hello, Jess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining me. Simon, you have been on before, one of our most listened to episodes ever.
Oh my God, I'm humbled.
And with excellent feedback. And actually, on that episode, you talked about Richard because you were saying he had just got the best agent for the month in the state, and you were very proud of him. So
Still am.
there you go. What better way what better guest to have for our generational change in real estate special?
I reckon we're relevant. Richard.
One out, one in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Exactly. Well, the timing's also obviously great because you have just kind of passed the banner in terms of Edison.
Indeed. I've
McGrath.
sold my shareholdings in my business to Ross, Hunter and Paz.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Somebody said to me the other day, he said, I think you've actually the only person that they know who's completed the chapter. It's like gone through, and this has been a successful transition.
Yeah, 100%. Beautiful. We had Alan Burke and James Thompson on the other day, and Alan has not quite completed that chapter because they're still trying to kick him out of the sales room. So, although you're still in sales, so there you go.
He is. He's
Not quite completed yet either.
He's in cattle class now out of his
That's
own.
right. I'm in the
private
mosh pit.
suite. Yeah, absolutely. The rest of the crew.
I've lost my key to the executive, bathroom.
Fishbowl.
So tell me, generational change, I want to kick off with your first sales, if you can remember them. Your very first sale in real estate. Let's start with Richard.
Okay. So I, having transitioned from engineering, there was a couple that were looking for a property in West Leederville. And obviously the best way to get started in real estate is just immerse yourself with buyers and create opportunity that way. And that's what I did. And there was one couple that was looking to buy in West Leederville. Long story short, listened to what they wanted, identified 3 streets which held what it was that they wanted, knocked every single door, not much of a response, tried again, not much of a response. So jumped on RP data, looked at which properties were currently being rented, found out that one of the properties being rented, the owner actually lived in East Perth, I think it was. So went and knocked on that door, left them a card saying, I've got somebody that wants to buy your house. Would you be willing to sell it? They didn't respond. So I went back to that same house and asked again. They weren't home, so I left the card. This isn't a hoax, this is genuine. And then they called me up and did a deal at $962,000.
Get out.
So that was my first sale in West Leederville, Kimberley Street.
Beautiful. What a street.
Old character home. So that was a good one. And a great
What
way to
year was
start.
that, Richard?
2015.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like yesterday.
Incredible.
I remember it like it was yesterday too.
Mine was, I was the guy in the office that just started, got no listings. And so somebody else went on holiday and they said, would you look after my listing? And I did, and I sold it for them.
Did you get the commission for it?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Richard, we've heard Simon's backstory. Just quickly, tell us, you said you came from engineering. Tell us how and when you started.
So I always had a passion for real estate, and I think that's key to this business as a whole. If you have passion, if you don't have passion, you don't last at the end of the day. And so, had passion, had a great opportunity to move across, chose voluntary redundancy from Fortescue Metals Group, which is where I met before. But before I did that, Simon saw my parents' home back in the day. And I actually reached out to Simon while I was thinking about the voluntary redundancy route.
Yeah.
I reached out to Simon and said, look, let's catch up. He said, look, there's a position here for you if you want it. So I was like, okay, sweet. So I put my hand up for voluntary redundancy. Had a month off, then joined Able McGrath.
Yeah.
And didn't look anywhere else. Just knew that Simon... He sold my parents' place when they had the quirky cars. You know, when they were along the side of the little, what were they?
Nissan S Cargos, but the less said about them, the better.
Yeah, sure. So I knew that the rapport was there and the brand was there and the name was there. and the unique nature of Simon was also there.
Yeah.
Didn't look anywhere else. So started there and didn't even know which suburb I was going to service neither. And special mention to Brad McEwen, who actually said, "Where are you going to service?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And he said, "Why don't you do Double View?" And I said, "That's a great idea."
There you
I'll do
go.
Double View. So
And the
thank
rest
you, Brad.
is history,
The rest is history.
as they say.
Yep.
Tell me, Simon, what stood out to Richard when he called you as someone who you would say off the bat, "Come on in, we've got a spot for you"?
Two things. Richard has great energy, and that's just a currency that you must have in real estate. You must have great energy. And the second thing was he was coachable. He was willing to be all ears and less mouth, and which is a great quality. Now he's all mouth and no ears, you see.
Naturally.
You've taught him all he knows, so.
Learn from the best.
Richard, what about it? You mentioned obviously the good aspects of Simon and why you gave him a call and what stood out, but is there anything about him as a mentor, I guess, that really stands out? What do you respect about him as an agent? What do you respect in an agent in general? And I'm just going to apply that to Simon.
Look, I think outside of real estate, it's like this. It's how you conduct yourself out of real estate. You know, everyone can be at face value in real estate. They can be I'm not saying false, but you know, there can be this facade that isn't quite real.
Yeah.
At the same time. And I think, you know, just to look back, and obviously Simon's got two not so young boys now, grown men, in fact, that tower over both of us, and a gorgeous wife. And I think I just respect that in so many ways, that he's able to have maintained the level of consistency over the 20 years of Abel McGrath anyway, and then obviously a few years prior to that. But to maintain the numbers, the respect, the volume, and also all that whilst holding the family dynamic as well as a separate entity, to balance the two, I and having a young family myself, I hold that in absolute high regard.
Yeah.
And that to me is what's of most importance is the balance. And I think everyone's always trying to look at ways of improving that balance. And just from someone that's been there, done that, that's what I think. It's outside of real estate.
If it's important to you, then that's something that's going to stand out. For some people, it's, well, my wife or my partner is going to look after the things at home while I do what I need to do at work. Whereas if it's, if that's an important quality to you, then something that you obviously see in other people. Yeah. So.
And also Simon did invite us around before we started in real estate, and we had a beautiful fish curry, and he did warn my wife of the long days, and the difficult times.
That's something David James says that he used to do with his new employees, was he'd meet them, he'd suss them out, and then he'd go and meet their partner and say, "Are you aware of what is going to be required from this person before I sign them up?"
Pre-framing it, because you don't quite know.
Yeah.
So you need to.
That's exactly right. Simon, I want to know from you if there is anything that Richard in his 5 years of real estate you've seen him try that you thought that's never going to work, and then he's proved you wrong, or...
No, he's proved me right in so many ways. Look, I don't want this to be a big mutual admiration fest, although maybe. But what I wanted to say was that the qualities that make up Richard are his unwavering dedication to the task. And I look at that and I go, I was once like that. He makes the calls, he plows in the energy, but he has a couple of really solid benefits. He uses technology far better than my generation ever could, and he applies himself, and he also has a level of discipline, and I'm far too juvenile for that. So he's not actually tried sort of anything like a stunt, where he's driven a silly car or handed out a cute gift or something that was sort of trite. No, he's entirely sincere. he's incredibly disciplined and hardworking, and they're not tricks. They're utterly sincere. So these are old-fashioned values. That's what I'm saying.
Richard, anything Simon does in his business that you would never do in yours?
Well,
Easy, big fella.
I guess, owning, I think what's important is owning certain tasks or certain things that you do. And Simon seems to own a lot of that really, really well. The attire that he wears, I don't think many people could really own the shorts and the ankle socks and the Marks and Sparks shirt.
Don't forget the Calvin Klein
and the Calvin
patent
Klein
sneakers that he's rocking.
And for somebody to own that takes a special person, and that's something that I don't think many people could, including myself. It's something I'll probably never try. But just the quirky ideas, So there's a few things, but I think that the main thing is to own your individuality, and if you own it and take it on the chin, then nobody blinks an eyelid. It's when you question yourself internally whether or not this is right that you start really picking up on people, and maybe. Yes, sir.
Richard, you're surprising me with your wisdom, because the evolution of one's own personality and soul is when you become comfortable in your skin. And
that is correct.
I'm not 100% there, buddy, but I'm definitely pretty comfortable in my own skin. And you either dig me or you don't. And all the best to you.
Yeah.
That's it. All you can be is yourself at the end of the day.
That's right. Everyone else is taken.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to jump in and let you know about our new podcast, Off Market Perth. Off Market is the latest project from Crib Creative. Every fortnight you can join me, Shane Beaumont, Ross Hunter and a special guest as we break down Perth's property market. You can find Off Market Perth wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, please don't forget to subscribe and be sure to tell a friend. Now I'll let you get back to your listening. All right, this is a question for both of you. Yeah. What new habit have you implemented in the last couple of years that's changed your life? I reckon Simon might have a good answer for this one.
Okay, I must admit, I've I got sick in the last couple of years, and I'm kind of getting my energies back. In fact, remarkably so. However, in a previous life, we'll call it, I had written across the top of my two monitors in my office 3 words, and they were focus, 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 because they reckon, and I agree with this comment, but the new currency is to not be distracted, because there is so much distraction in the world right now coming at you from everywhere. And this is a quality I recognise about Richard, his ability to stay focused. I needed to actually be right-minded every second.
It's the only resource you cannot get back is your time.
Yeah, precisely. Money comes and goes. Time just goes.
Yep. There you go. Focus.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just, when you're at work, you're at work. When you're at play, you're at play.
Yeah.
Like just having that
separating the two.
Dedication to whatever you're doing. Like if you're in a call session, you're in a call session. If you're door knocking, you're door knocking. Appraisal, be present. And then on the other side, when you're with your family, and this is something that I'm still working on, but like the phone rings or somebody wants an appraisal, or certain appointments on your day off, or when you've got other commitments, just having that dedication to whatever you're supposed to be doing, and finding alternatives.
Is that something that you've been learning or getting better at over the past 5 years?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The first few years it was 7 days working.
Yeah.
7 days. Probably like 13 hours a day. And that was through door knocking, letterbox drops, and, doing all that sort of stuff. That's sort of tapered off as I've been able to leverage. But, it's just understanding really what's important. And as you're moving through the journey, I guess understanding what is important, because things change, and what's important to you changes too. So yeah, just for me, just being dedicated to the task at hand, and having that focus.
Richard, you're blessed with a fabulous partner, and Jody will always keep you real. that's what I recognise. With it comes costs and benefits, but I think you've got your head screwed on. I think you can look at the two opposing forces and go, okay, well, we're going to do this, but on the other side of it is this benefit, but it does come with a cost, and it's a personal cost for families. You're not the only person that suffers when you're out till 10:30 at night.
No,
someone else is suffering too.
Yeah.
Of course not. But you've really hit your straps in the last couple of years. Those 7 days of, they do.
Yeah, they pay off. They do.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
But it's just having that vision and knowing that it's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
So, and also being true to your word, and also telling your wife that it's not going to be forever. And she's like,
You said that last year.
I remember in 2016 you said that. I'm like, oh no, it won't be not too much longer.
Richard,
Yes.
what's the most valuable piece of advice Simon has ever given you? Oh.
So much.
Yeah.
Should we disclaimer this by saying we had this interview lined up for 2 weeks ago, and Richard told me before he came in he was prepped, he had all his notes ready, he was ready to go, and then Simon forgot about our interview, and Richard has since lost his prep notes.
Simon is now lying under the table in a fetal position.
So I think the one thing is rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that stands out for me and something that's resonated from the very start.
Yeah.
Whether it's, in all forms, in all activities of real estate, and life as well, like just generally speaking.
The translation of that is be bold, fill the space.
Yep.
Someone's going to fill it, and it might as well be you, particularly if you have a good heart and you're honest and you're a good communicator and your intentions are pure. You should be filling the space because somebody else might not be as...
somebody else will.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the translation of that. Be bold, fill the space, and be utterly authentic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Simon, has Richard ever given you any great advice that you've really held on to?
None. No. No, I'm going to have to contemplate that and come back.
You can tell the truth.
Richard has been a great student in that he's not cocky. He hasn't been, giving advice. He's been soaking it up from everybody around him, from every source, looking under every rock, trying to find the greatest source of wisdom and knowledge and able to progress himself. That's Richard. Yeah. So he's been, like I said, more ears, less mouth.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. What's the worst piece of advice your ears have picked up over the last 5 years?
From Simon?
From anyone.
From anyone.
Anyone in the industry.
Wear shorts. Is that?
Wear shorts.
I bet that's not the worst piece of advice on a 40-degree day.
Worst piece of advice? I think just don't let success get to you. I mean, you see so many people that sort of, rise through the ranks, and just be humble and true. And I think that's one thing that can, for me personally, I can feel it, when you start to build up a little bit more confident and you're securing 8 out of 10 appraisals and sort of like, oh yeah, this is good. I'm, on top of my game. And then all of a sudden you lose 3 or 4 in a row, and that just knocks you to the chin. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that came crashing down.
Yeah.
And I think, just to stay humble and true. And that's for me.
Do you remember us going
important.
off for a coffee up to Tiago's and you going, Simon, what's happening? I'm doing these appraisals. I'm not getting them.
Yeah.
And the chat we had around that, and my take on it was, you've just got to stick to the knitting. You'll get there. At the moment, you're building up your brand and all the rest of it, and now you've arrived. So, look, those are the things that test you. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If it was easy, there'd be a higher, rate of people coming out of the REWA course that stick to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, instead of the
2 out of 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah, look, it's something like 99% of people pack up in 12 months.
Yeah. There you go.
It's just this sort of thin wedge of insanity that continue.
Yeah.
Makes it through the filter.
Simon, what's the worst piece of advice you've ever heard in the industry? Whether someone's given it to, something that people say to agents that you think, what a load of rubbish.
Boy, sorry, Jess, I don't have a instantaneous answer for that, like I've heard agents in Home Open tell the price that will buy the house to somebody else, and I literally just put my face in my hands and go, this is unbelievably bad. I've heard agents say that there's somebody else about to make an offer, or they've received an offer and they haven't, and I'm just going, oh my God, these are not only you doing an injustice to yourself, the property, your sellers, the buy, it's just awful. And I've been around when people have done this sort of stuff. But none of that's advice. They're examples set by others. Look, I'll never wear a pocket handkerchief.
I like that one. Sassy. Tell me, we've been talking about how time poor agents are, 7 days a week. What have you guys learnt to say no to over the years?
Wow. Look, I'm going to say probably nothing. No, it's not true. People, you've got to try and qualify people on the phone. Not always easy. Not always, because, I think we're born salespeople, and you want to chase that opportunity and do the right thing by your seller. And that's like always. However, there are people who will just chew up your time, and they really are not qualified. So particularly on Sundays, I'll ask questions like, tell me about what you're looking for before we disrupt my seller, using my seller as the excuse. And then I ask them a series of questions around, what are you looking for? How many kids you've got? What's your budget? Are you able to buy? And if they don't pass those questions, I'll say, look, my seller's going to probably not want us to go there today. And if we can set up a time during the week, is that going to be okay for you? 9 out of 10 times it is.
Yeah.
Or I have been so sucked into this in the past of just chasing that sale.
Yeah.
And agreed to go places on Sundays and nighttime and whatever when I really shouldn't have. I've denigrated my family by doing that.
Yeah.
Should have been there with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's having dedication to what you're doing, and if it doesn't fall within that allotted time frame, then I'm sorry, but it'll have to be another time.
Yeah.
I would have said no to this podcast 3 times if I knew Simon was going to be late each time.
He's making this up. And you've no way of knowing.
But yeah, it is. It's just, being, making sure that the appointments that you set, and also with appraisals and that sort of thing, knowing what time of the day your energy is at its best, and making sure that you structure your day accordingly, not let somebody else structure your day for you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Final question, because I know we're on a time crunch. When you guys lose focus, it's a business of focus and momentum, and we've talked about that, and energy. How do you get it back?
I'll go first.
You go first.
Okay. I've got a theory. I have a theory on this, and the way back on track is to not focus on the big picture, like trying to get a great week. Just focus on getting a great 30 minutes. And if you can do that, your sense of self-worth and your achievement will feel so good. You'll string together another good 30 minutes. And then if you can string together another hour and 2 hours, 3 hours, next thing you know, you've strung together a good day. But it doesn't start off like, I'm going to achieve this. For me, it's got to be, this is my recipe, it's got to be getting together that, if I can just get a great hour together, I'm going to be great for the day. Generally, that's what happens. And it's a mindset, it's just like, okay, let's just work on this. No disruptions, no distractions. I'm just going to get together this next 60 minutes and smash it for that. And I think that you don't even know it, Richard, but I think that's actually what you do because you're so good at not being distracted and staying focused.
Yeah, so I've got targets above my desk, so I know how many sales I need, how many listings I need for those sales, how many appraisals for those listings, appraisals and all that sort of thing. So I just revert back to that.
Yeah.
And I know when my peak months are and slower months are, and just revert back to that. So at the end of the day, I know how many calls I need to make.
That's an engineering brain at work right there.
That's exactly right. Yeah, numbers. So, I know what I need to hit what targets. And so if I just look at that, then it's interesting because as I was speaking with Caleb, my assistant, today about settlements that we've got through for this for this month, and the settlements that we've got for this month and maybe next month as well, part of next month, is really the sales that occurred in December. So then that's why it's maybe a little bit less, is because you went through that sort of December, New Year's period. And the settlements that you're seeing today is the work that you put in then.
Yeah.
So hence it's a little bit slow, but you break it down like that and you go, well, hang on a second, what do I want to see in June, July? Because whatever you want to see then, you need to do now.
This is the work.
So but it's just having those targets and hitting those targets, isn't it, Mr. McGrath?
I would never know. I could only dream of having such discipline. Seriously, being a more organic man, I just tackle every day and say, today I've got to give it my best shot. And if I can go home at the end of the day feeling like, I did give it a good crack, that's actually my business plan.
You guys are chalk and cheese personality
We are.
types. Yeah. Is that why it works so well, this relationship?
I think so.
Mentor-mentee?
Yeah. I think Richard looks at me and laughs, and I like people laughing with me.
Even if he doesn't know if it's at him or with him, he just takes
Indeed.
it. Yeah, he's just comfortable.
Yeah,
he's just comfortable.
Beautiful. It has been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
Jess.
coming in.
Fun.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
That's it for this episode. We'd love any feedback or guest suggestions, so please hit me up on Instagram on Jess@Crib to let us know what you think. Did you know about our new podcast, Off Market? Off Market is the latest project from Crib Creative. Every fortnight, you can join me, Shane Beaumont, Ross Hunter, and a special guest as we break down Perth's property market. Find Off Market Perth wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy our shows, this one or Off Market, please don't forget to subscribe and be sure to tell a friend.